Dear participant, good morning. And today's session, we are going to start with a very important topic, mental health in the workplace. See, all you, me, my co-coordinator, all we are the working professional. And during our working time, we have some stress, we have some mental stress when we are working, in some institutions or organization. So today lecture, Madam is going to take on mental health in the workplace. How, what type of the mental health we require for our working place, and if some such issues are there, how to address such problems. Because mental health is very important for each and all. If we are mentally fit, then our the mental health directly impact and influence our working performance and our mental peace. So very what I can say is very important lecture. Today we are going to start with Madam Zoengpari is a professor and head Department of Psychology and Director, Women's Center, Mizoram University. So on the behalf of the HRDC Mizoram University, Madam, I welcome you in this 6th FIP program, and I am very grateful. You are very busy nowadays. You have some urgent meeting. Even then, today first class, you came to HRDC Center to take this your first class. So thank you so much. With this, I am handing over the session to you for your lecture, Madam.
Good morning, everyone. Professor Manoj Verma and all the other people at the HRDC. It is indeed always a pleasure to give lecture class at the HRDC. As Professor Manoj has just said, mental health is a very, very trending and very hot issue today. All people all over the world know that mental health is something which has to be given importance and which is very, very important in everyone's work life as well as personal life. So thank you very much, sir, for this opportunity once again. So let me straight away start with my presentation. I will, even though this is a Zoom class, I will still ask you to do an activity here or there at your own locations. You can do it by yourself. Maybe a little activity, deep breathing activity, or a stretching activity, depending on whether you fall asleep or not. Even though I cannot see you, I can still feel the vibe. If people are interested or people are being very participative, etc., etc. Okay, thank you all. So let me start my presentation. So as the screen, as you can see from the screen, today we will be talking about mental health in the workplace. So we will start with what is mental health. Okay, so as you can see from the screen, mental health is an integral and essential component of health. So we all know that we're not just talking about physical health here, but also the mental part, that is the mental health. And both of them go together. If one is not well, when one is not working well, then the other also is not most of the time working well. WHO defines mental health as a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stressors of life, and can work productively and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. So this is a very clear-cut, a very easy to understand definition of what mental health is. Let me just go a little bit in detail about this definition with a few examples. State of well-being. That is the overall well-being of an individual, of you and me, physical as well as mental. And here we're talking about that the individual realizes his or her own abilities. Here we're talking about you and me recognizing and acknowledging that I have this strengths and I have this challenges in me, in my life. So if we are able to acknowledge, if we are able to be self-aware, aware of who we are, as well as what our abilities are, that is one of the components of state of well-being. Then the second part is can cope with the normal stressors of life and can work productively is the second component. Here we're talking about you and I meet with stressors every day. In fact, many people think that stress is unhealthy or not good, but that is a wrong notion. Stress is healthy. The only break, so to say, is when that stress interferes or makes you not able to function as you normally do. That is harmful stress. That is stress which has to be addressed. But as we say, normal stressors is very, very important. It motivates us. It makes us more aware, open to what is around us, and so on, and also to cope with the stressors. The third component is can work productively and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. Okay, so that's the third component, and this is a very, very important component because no man is an island, as you and I know very well. We are born, we were created rather to be with people, to be in relationships, to have relationships with people around us. So it is our role, it is our duty, more or less, irrespective of whichever religion you belong to or follow, that if you make a contribution or if you do something for your community, for other people, that makes you feel good. That is a feel-good factor. And all these three components taken together makes an individual, makes you, me and you, a mentally healthy individual, mentally healthy person. So that is the definition that has been given by WHO. The next slide is just a reiteration of what we have just said. Mental health is about how we think, feel, and behave. What I think, what you think, what I feel, what you feel, and the resulting behavior. What I do based on what I think and feel is mental health. So if I think negatively, if I'm a very negative person, or if I have a negative mindset, and I feel negative, or I have negative thoughts and feelings, emotions, then that affects my behavior. That affects, or that has an impact on how I behave towards myself and towards others or with others. So mental health is about how we think, feel, and behave. In continuation, those are some of the definitions, some of the factors of mental health. WHO has produced a manual as well as different projects and different leaflets, handouts, IEC, that is information materials over time. And in the last, in this millennia, specifically in the last couple of years, there has been much emphasis all over the world by different organizations, health institutions, governments, etc., with regards to giving importance to mental health. I'm sure that all of you know that Finland has been graded or rated the happiest country in the world. And India ranks quite low on that scale. So what are the components of happiness? Does that have anything to do with with mental health? Yes, it does. And I'm sure that all of us are very much aware of that. If we have positive, good, healthy mental health, then obviously we'll be a happy person. We are happy people. And in order to be happy, in order to have mental health, WHO has produced Protecting Workers' Health series, which provides guidance on common issues such as harassment, stress, that can affect the health of workers. So specifically, as the director HRDC had said, today we're going to talk about mental health in the workplace, right? In specifics, we're not going to talk about mental health in general in relation to any other aspect, but in the workplace. And the guidelines or the series that WHO has produced provides guidelines on common issues an individual people face in the workplace, such as harassment and stress. Besides these two, there are a couple of other issues that the individual may face. In continuation, there is a global policy level where the WHO has put forward a global plan of action on workers' health in 2008 to 2017, and again a mental health action plan from starting from 2013 and up to 2030. So we are in this phase where the WHO's global plan of action on workers' health, mental health action plan covers us. And if we're interested to go a little bit further or to do a little bit more in-depth study research on this issue, we can always refer to the WHO Mental Health Action Plan, where the relevant principles, objectives, implementation strategies to promote good mental health are given. It is kind of a guidebook, so to say, where the basic relevant principles, the objectives of the mental health action plan, and the implementation strategies, which is a very, very important part of how to go about it. What is the action plan? What you and I, what an institution, what a place of work, people who are in charge of the workplace need to do with regards to protection, with regards to prevention of mental ill health or protection of mental health, and what to do and how to help, etc., etc. So what does the guideline, the mental health action plan, what are the principles and what are the objectives of the mental health in the workplace, which has been put forward by WHO? The first is addressing social determinants of mental health, such as living standards and working conditions. That's the first focus of attention, which has been put forward. Social determinants of mental health, such as living standards and working conditions. The second area of focus is activities for prevention and promotion of health and mental health, including activities to reduce stigmatization and discrimination. I would just like to give an example with regards to this. All of us, all over the world, whether it's in the East or in the West, are very much aware that there is still a very high level of stigma and discrimination with regards to mental health and mental health issues till today, even though we are in the new millennia, so to say. So one of the focus areas of WHO is prevention and promotion, as well as intervention strategies to reduce stigmatization and discrimination. So what do you and I have to do about it? A person, an individual, or if she has mental health issues, and because of the stigma and because of discrimination, fear of stigma and discrimination, there are many people out there who refuse, or who are scared, who are embarrassed, who do not want to go for treatment to a mental health professional. The mental health problem may be very minor, or it may be a more serious one. Whatever the case, people are very hesitant, reluctant to go to a mental health professional. If we have any medical illness, say for example, typhoid, cancer, etc., etc., we immediately go to the medical professional to get treatment, to get diagnosed. But with regards to mental health issues, that is not the case. So that is one of the challenges that the world is facing today. The third focus of area is increasing access to evidence-based care through health service development, including access to occupational health services. So health services, like for example, in the context of Mizoram, we have just 7 psychiatrists, about 20 odd clinical psychologists, and maybe about 100 or so counseling psychologists or people with mental health, with degrees, masters in clinical or counseling psychology. And looking at the number of mental health professionals that are available, the services that are available to people is still very limited. Anyway, so that is one of the focus areas, and an area where much emphasis, trust has to be given, so that mental health services are available to each and every one of us. And also one of the other issues besides that we have mentioned earlier, stress and other mental health issues, we also have included in that alcohol and drug use disorders and suicide prevention challenges. Alcohol, drug, that comes under substance use disorders, and then also suicide prevention, because many of the suicides, according to studies that have been undertaken over the years, it may be because of one of the very major mental disorders, diseases like depression, and one of the symptoms of depression is suicide ideation or suicidal tendencies. And not just for a person with depression, who has been diagnosed as having depression, there are people like you and me, when we face too much trauma or life circumstances is such that we think or we have suicidal ideation, think about suicide, etc., etc. Anyway, and also with regards to alcohol and drug use disorder, when people feel stress, we tend to kind of go to use of substances, and that may lead to addiction and other problems related to substance use disorders. And also WHO is developing IT-supported self-help tools to address common mental disorders, harmful use of alcohol, and psychological distress in low and middle income countries. So these are available and downloadable on the WHO website. So if people, if you know people or if you yourself has any common or mental health issues, that is, you can do a self-test or a self-help tool. But it is preferable, or it is advised that we avail the services of trained mental health professionals. That is advice. If we do it by ourselves, it may not be very much useful. But anyway, these are tools that have been produced or that have been developed by WHO. Because as I said earlier, the number of professionals are still very less. The ratio is still very low. So a person, an individual may not be having the resources, or the services may not be available. So in those cases, the option is these tools, self-help tools that are available. But otherwise, it is best advised to meet or see trained mental health professionals. So the next slide, we will be talking a little bit in detail about the different types of mental health issues that people in the workplace face. Anxiety and depression are the most common ones, and I'm sure that all of us know what anxiety is, what depressions are, and also how they are caused. Because the common man's idea or understanding of anxiety and depression is most of the time wrong. If you say, I have never had an anxious moment in my life, then you may have to look back at yourself. Because it is very, very normal to be anxious, depending on what has caused that anxiety. With regards to depression too, if you say, I have never felt alone, lonely, lethargic, hopeless in my life, you may have to look back at yourself, because all those emotions, all those feelings are very, very normal that you and I face, or that you and I have at some time in our lives. It may be quite often, it may be quite rare, or it may be happening to you, me, most of the time. It is when it happens, when you have those emotions, when you have those thoughts and feelings, most of the time, for a certain period of time, according to the DSM, that is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, which classifies, categorizes whether your thoughts, feelings, of depression, feeling sad, feeling lonely, hopeless, etc., can be diagnosed, can be classified as a mental illness or a disease. So there is a criteria that specifies whether the anxiety that you're feeling, whether the depression symptoms that you are feeling can be classified or can be categorized as a mental illness or disease. And here I would like to reiterate and say that if it is anxiety disorder, DSM has classified that it has to be of this intensity. The period and the intensity will determine whether it is anxiety because of some life stressors, some traumatic events that you are facing at a certain point of time, etc., or whether you have the anxiety disease or disorder. So say, for example, if the depression, the feelings, emotions of depression that you have is continuing for more than 3 weeks, day in and day out, 24/7. You're feeling hopeless, you don't feel like getting up from bed, you don't feel like eating, you feel like it's better, you think to yourself that it's better if I die, I'm useless, I'm hopeless, etc., It's better if I die, better if I kill myself. All those, if it is there with you 24/7 for at least minimum of 3 weeks at a stretch, then you may be diagnosed as having depression disorder or disease. Likewise for anxiety. So if for some people, even though we may not actually be diagnosed as having depression or anxiety, even after 3 weeks, it depends on the individual. Individual differences are there. We have to keep a mind on that we cannot measure each and every one of us with the same yardstick. There are individual differences. For a person, it may take 4 or 5 weeks or even a month or more than that to have all those very intense negative emotions, symptoms of depression or anxiety. And depending on the individual, as I said. So we cannot generalize, but at the same time keep in mind that there are individual differences and personality differences also are there. So that is what I would like to go a little bit in detail about anxiety and depression. So if you're feeling anxious, if you have symptoms of depression, don't worry. Just think about the criteria that have been put forward by DSM, and then decide, not for yourself. Obviously, you have to go and meet a mental health professional, and then the decision, the diagnosis will be made by that expert, and then you can carry on with your life. The next slide it's quite there are obviously more recent studies, but this is something which is common even in the latest studies. Latest studies also have not found anything new with regards to the key work factors that are associated with mental ill health. So I'm using this as reference. So the key work factors that are associated with mental ill health are long working hours, work overload and pressure, lack of control, lack of participation in decision making, poor social support, and unclear management and work roles. So these are the factors that have been identified through research studies, and this can be applied to all areas of work, whether you're working in an institution as a teacher, you're working as a staff, you're working in a factory, you're a taxi driver, or you're a blue-collar worker, white-collar worker, or a daily wage labor, or whatever your work is. This applies to all of us. So long working hours, work overload and pressure, lack of control, lack of participation in decision-making, poor social support, and unclear management and work roles. The second last two, that is poor social support and unclear management and work role, is something which has been addressed specifically in the last couple of decades, maybe 20, give or take 10 years, maybe 30 years, because researchers and people, experts in the field have realized, have come to learn from research studies that social support is very, very important for mental health. And it can be perceived social support, or it can be social support in the real, so to say. So social support, it may be in different communities, it may be different how we understand social support. In the context of Mizoram, we have a good social support system. We have NGOs for every age group, etc., etc. And I'll just give you one example. We have the Young Mizo Association, where everyone from the age of 14 to 50 can be a member. And that NGO is in charge or supervises funerals, marriages, etc., if invited or if requested by the individual or the family. And we have the also, as Mizoram is it's a Christian state, we also have all the other altruistic behaviors or way of life that comes together with altruism, and that in Mizo is called Tlomaina, where others before self is the motto. Anyway, so I'm just giving you an example of the social support that is available. And the basic social support which we have, every society, every part of the world has, is support of spouses, support of family, support of communities, support of religious organizations, etc., support at work, and so on and so forth. So social support. Then unclear management and work role, specifically for people who are new to the job or just starting a job, etc., this can be a very challenging issue. And also in many institutions and organizations earlier, but this has been streamlined in the last, as I said earlier, 20-30 years, where the job description, where the role of people in a job is clearly defined. That was not so much so. It was to a certain extent, but not very clearly defined earlier. But today, a person who has recently joined knows very much, or is very clear about what are the roles. But even then, in spite of that, you still have setups where the boss is the boss kind of situation. And there again, a person who has been employed or who has been who recently joined a job is expected to do many other things outside of the job description. But anyway, whatever the case is, if there is unclear management and work role, that also is one of the key work factors associated with mental ill health. So Those are some of the factors, and specifically for this group of participants, you are probably still just joined or has been in the post for only a couple of years, etc., etc. So these may be some of the issues and challenges that you are facing. And with regards to these, there are certain, at the end of the discussion of, at the end of the presentation, we will be talking about self-help ways and means that we can improve our mental health, that you and I can do by ourselves. We don't need the services, or we don't need to go and meet a mental health professional. Mental health illnesses are classed as disabilities because they can seriously impact an employee's capacity to do a job they are well capable of carrying out. Okay, so mental health illnesses are classed as Am I audible? Hello?
Yeah, madam, you are audible.
Yeah. Sorry about that. The Wi-Fi connection had a breakdown. So we're able to reconnect just now. But then those are the challenges, the issues. So were the people very stressed about whether I would be back or not? Or we were happy? This gives us time to relax. I will not say I was happy, but it gave me time, that break, the Wi-Fi breakdown gave me time to have a cup of tea. So now I'm back with more energy. Okay, let's continue with where we left off. I will be try to make the participatory, that is the what I can do to have good mental health part. So we can talk about that a little bit in detail. So I'll not be actually skipping through the slides, but I will go a little bit faster. Yeah, I hope that's all right with everyone. So the next slide is, why is mental health important in human resources? We had already talked about this at length, so I'll just go briefly through this once again, because seriously impact the employee's capacity to do a job they are well capable of carrying out. You and I may be very much aware of this as school children, and also as spouses, partners, etc., children of parents, people in the community. We know that we have certain roles that we are responsible for, that we need to carry out. And if there are any issues with regards to that, we sometimes feel very incapable. We sometimes feel that we are very inadequate. So if those feelings persist for periods of time, certain periods of time, now and then, feeling is quite all right. It's quite healthy also to a certain extent. Otherwise, we will have too much pride, and that can be our downfall too. But anyway, what I would like to reiterate is that this mental ill health or mental illnesses seriously impact the employee's capacity, the individual's capacity to do the job that we are well capable of carrying out. So with regards to the importance of mental health at the workplace, we can see from the slide that productivity decreases, absenteeism increases, and total medical cost increases because of mental ill health. But if we can provide, or if we have good mental health, all these are the negative impacts of mental ill health are met, and productivity increases, absenteeism because of small reasons here and there. I have a headache, I have a fever, etc. I'm not feeling too good today. I got up on the wrong side of the bed kind of attitude, and lifestyle also decreases. And also a very important aspect is the economics. The total medical cost, even though you may be working in a government institution where you have the medical reimbursement system. If that is not so, then it's a big stressor. It's a big stressor, thinking not just about the illness, trying to get well, but also about the cost. So these are some of the more specific. I had in the earlier slide listed some of the common mental health issues in general for people all over in every walk of life. So now this slide tells us in specifics what are the common mental health issues, specifically in the workplace, whichever is our area or workplace. Stigma and discrimination, demand control, effort reward relationships, job burnout, harassment, violence, bullying and mobbing, and problematic substance use. Stigma, discrimination, we already talked about this. Then demand control, effort reward. This, especially in the context of the institutions, academic institutions,
this is a very challenging, is something which has been swept out under the carpet for ages, but it's slowly emerging now, where you have the scenarios, the situations of supervisors, scholars, teachers, students, etc., etc., where you have instances of effort-reward relationships, demand control, and so on. So these are some of the issues that you may face as beginning people in the workforce. Then job burnout because of too long work hours, too high demand, etc., etc. We all know what the specifics are. So job burnout. Then you also have instances or issues such as harassment, violence. Violence is not necessarily physical. When we talk about violence, we tend to think only about physical violence. Here we're talking about sexual violence, we're talking about psychological violence, emotional violence, blackmail, and so on and so forth. Then we're talking about bullying. We all know what bullying is, and mobbing. Then also problematic substance use. And the basic or the most common types that people in the workplace face are depression, anxiety, loss of concentration, besides all the others that we have listed earlier. These are the common ones, so to say. Then you have the how the workplace affects mental health. I'll skip through these slides because I want to concentrate on the how to, what you can do by yourself or you can do at your end to help yourself or to have good mental health. So, how can we improve health and well-being in the workplace? We all know this, right? Avoid morning stress. But how can you control your life so that morning stress can be avoided? You can say, oh, it's so very easy to say so. Very easy for someone to say, do this, do that, come here, go there, etc., etc. But we have to purposefully try to follow these diktats so that we can have good mental health. And there are always means and ways of developing the skills or avoiding places or avoiding people or trying to stay more organized. Time management is there, trying to have fun, to be with friends, do something you're good at, etc., etc. So these are very things which are not difficult at all from our individual levels. We can all do this, provided we think about it and provided that we try to do our very best so that we can avoid morning stress. From your life experience, you know that what causes morning stress for you over a period of time, from self-awareness, from specifically reflecting, reviewing what gives you morning stress. From there, you can identify what are the things that give you morning stress. So in order to avoid morning stress, even if those stressors or those instances, those situations come in the morning, you know how to avoid them, or you know how to deal with them or take care of them, right? So with being very much self-aware, you can do all these things. Understanding expectations. This also, all of us do not have the same personality, and all of us may not be have an understanding personality. But even if you, from your awareness, self-awareness, oh, I think I'm not a very understanding person, or I tend to have very high expectations from myself and from other people. With realization that that is so, you can always try to, I'm not going to use the word compromise, but you can always try to make a difference. Learn the skill of understanding expectations. It's a skill which is learnable, which you can learn. Avoid conflict. Here we're not just talking about running away from every time a conflict situation comes, but learn how to how to avoid conflict in a mentally healthy way. Learning coping behaviors, stay organized, right? Time management, etc., etc. Be comfortable and so on. Okay, we'll talk about these a little bit more specifically in the next few slides. So the first way or the first method or the first step you can take towards developing good mental health is talking about your feelings. I know this is very, very difficult, especially if you are a private kind of person and you're not used to sharing your thoughts and feelings with people. You may be single, you may have a partner, a spouse, or you may have someone in your family that you can talk to, whatever, or if you don't have anyone at all that you can talk to, whatever is the case, you can find ways and means of finding a person or a service that will listen to your feelings, where you can discuss. Keeping everything bottled up is very, very unhealthy, and it does not boot for good mental health. To have good mental health, you need to be able to share, to talk about openly about your feelings. Here, I'm not talking about going and shouting from the street corner about your thoughts and feelings, sharing with everyone around who's willing to listen. I'm not talking about that. You identify a person or a service that is available, who will keep all the sharings that you have made confidential, etc., etc. People you can trust, whose integrity is unquestionable, etc., etc. So, and this is, we always have to realize that talking about your feelings isn't a sign of weakness. The male macho mindset, we all know what the male macho mindset is, I'm sure, is that a man or a male does not talk about his feelings. It's unmanly to do so. But research and time has found out, reported time and time again, that it is very mature to talk about your feelings. Because when you talk about your feelings, you are a much more better person, a person with good mental health. It does not have anything to do with your manliness or your macho role. So all the males in the group, please think about it in that context. Someone to talk to about your feelings. This is just an elaboration of what I have just said. You identify someone you feel comfortable with and who will be supportive, who will not go and tell everyone around about what you have shared with him or her. The second is keep active, right? We all know what keep active means. All over the world, we're talking about the high incidence or high rate of lifestyle diseases and illnesses, diabetes, heart problems, stress problems, etc., etc., which are all lifestyle related, right? So even if we may not have the time to go to a gym, and going to keeping active does not necessarily means that you have to go to a gym. You can be active in your workplace, you can be active in your house, you can do so many things which will keep you physically fit and active. Many people think that, oh, I cannot be active, or I cannot exercise. I don't do exercise because I don't have time to go to the gym, or I don't have money. That's not an excuse. Being active or taking exercise cannot only happen in a gym situation. It can happen anywhere. So it's up to you. Regular exercise can boost your self-esteem, help you concentrate, sleep and feel better. We all know that is so. If your lifestyle is such that you go to bed at 1, 2 o'clock and have to get up for work at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. Obviously, the way that the Creator has made us to have a healthy lifestyle, or to be physically fit, you need at least 7, 8 hours of sleep. So if you go to bed at 1, 2 o'clock and have to get up at 6, 7, your health will definitely suffer. So we have to manage our time, sleep time, and make sure that we have the necessary sleep, the necessary hours, so to have a healthy, to be physically and mentally healthy. This is just an example that I would like to add. If you work in an office or a class, taking a class as a teacher, you can work during lunchtime, or you can walk up. Suppose your workplace has a lift, but there is a flight of steps. You are working on the 3rd floor. So maybe coming down the steps, walking on your way back from work after your work finishes, or climbing up 3 flights of steps at least once or twice in a day, depending on your stamina, your energy. That also is a form of exercise. And for people who work from home also, there are so many inventive ways that you can do exercise. You don't have to go to the gym. You don't need time, because you need time to do that. And all of us do not have the the time to do so. Then the third is eat well. We all know this, right? But we're so busy that right from 10 o'clock till 5 o'clock, so busy the whole day that you forget to eat and you don't have time to eat, etc., etc. And even if you have time to eat, you didn't have time to, because you got up late in the morning, you didn't have time to prepare lunch, a lunch box. So you have to eat from the canteen, and the canteen does not provide very nutritious food. So all those are challenges that you need to realize, be aware about them, and try to make a difference with regards to that. And what I would like to share here is that many people tend to go to dietitians, etc., etc. But the dietitians sometimes fail to realize or plan the diets according to the context, according to the food habits of the individual. Like, for example, the Northeast people and the North Indian people are rice-eating people. So if, and roti eating people, etc., etc. I'm sure that you know what I mean. So if the dietitian makes a diet plan for you where there is no rice at all 5 days a week, it's very difficult for the individual to adjust. Because right from the time he was born, even before, because the parents, the genes that he inherited from the parents are the genes of rice-eating people. So anyway, so those are some of the issues and challenges. So if the dietitian is very much aware of your food habits and a diet plan that you can stick to, that is very, very good. And also you need to be aware of what you eat, when you eat, and etc., etc. Drink sensibly. This is another very important aspect. In the West and also in the metros of the big cities, you have the happy hours, and I'm sure all of you know. In restaurants and bars, you have the happy hour from 6 to maybe 8 o'clock in the evening. After people get back from work, they can go to the bar, they can go to the pub, they can go to the restaurant and have a drink or two and then go home. That's quite healthy. But what we're talking about here is the unhealthy drinking, binge drinking, drinking the whole night through, drinking from morning, etc., etc. So we all know what this happens. And we all know that if you drink regularly, that may lead to addiction. And addiction has a whole host of issues and problems that comes along with it. So anyway, as adults, it's our decision, but then we need to be very much aware of where we want to go and whether it's interfering with our work, with our lives, etc., etc. Keep in touch. This is another very important aspect. I always give an example of the 9/11, where the terrorists bombed the. We all know what happened on 9/11, right? And there, it happened in the US, and there many people have, basically they are a Christian country, but then many people had left the church, many people did not have any religion, and since it's an individualist society and culture, me kind of life is followed by all the people there. So they're not bothered about relatives, they're not bothered about so many things which we consider sacred in the Indian culture. Anyway, so when 9/11 happened, many people went back to families, went back to their places of worship, etc., etc. So that is an indication that man, as I said in the earlier, when I started my presentation, no man is an island. No man can live alone. We have to be in relationships, not have to be necessarily, but it is good to have relationships, to be in relationships, and also to have relationships with people around us, be it our workplace, be it our families, be it our communities, etc., etc. And it's good to keep in touch, and it's so much more easier today. You have all these technology, you have the social media platforms, WhatsApp, Instagram, etc., etc., where you don't have to make an effort. Just a minute here to give an emoticon, a good morning, or a flower, or a heart, etc., etc., and that keeps the person to whom you're sending it a feeling of connectedness, whether it's only through the wire. Yesterday was my granddaughter's 6th birthday, and she was eating her birthday cake when I was talking to her. So I told her, can you give me a piece of the birthday cake? Api, you are on the phone, so you cannot eat the cake. That made me realize that even though it was only not real time but FaceTime, but it still made a difference because I was able to wish her face to face, so to say, over the phone, and it made a difference. Think about the times. I'm sure that you were not even born then, when we had to queue up at the STD PCO booths to talk to people from outside, or to talk to people outside of our environments. Anyway, keeping in touch is very, very important. Let me just go back. Work politics. This is a very, very big challenge in all workplaces and also in academic institutions. This is a very big challenge that we face. So we need to be very skillful. We need to be very diplomatic, tactful, learn to work our ways, learn to handle work politics. Otherwise, many people face burnouts and other issues. So we have to make sure that we are able to learn the skills. One very useful way of me tackling work politics is be on cordial relationships with everyone, but keep your distance. Because in the workplace, you need to talk, you need to greet, etc., etc. You need to have cordial relationships, but keep away or stay away from the person or persons with whom there is an issue or a challenge, so that work politics will always be there. And it has always been there, and it's always going to be there. The important point here is how you face it, how you deal with it. Whether it's making you feel stressed, not right from Friday evening, making you feel, or you dreading Monday mornings, because you have to go to your work, back to your workplace. So your enjoyment of the weekend, that is the Saturday and the Sunday, is all spoiled because of you're not able to deal with, or you're not able to address the issues, the challenges that you face at work. It cannot be totally erased, or it cannot be totally removed, because the people or the situation is always going to be there. So it's up to you how you deal with it, how you face with it, and how you tackle it, right? So during the 10 or 15 minutes break that we had earlier, because of the Wi-Fi issues, what I did was I had a cup of tea and I went and stood out in the sun. So I was not stressed. So that is an impromptu way of managing with this sudden breakdown of the internet connectivity this morning, right? So there are ways and means that we can deal with the issues, the challenges. So it's up to, at the end of the day, it's always up to you and to me, how we deal with it, how we face, and what are we going to do about it. Am I just going to say, oh, this is the challenge, I'm so fed up, I'm burned out, I'm going to leave my job, I'm not going to, etc., etc. Or are you going to say, this is the situation, this is the challenge, so there must be something that I can do about it. So let me learn to deal with it. I'm sure there are ways and means of dealing with it. I'm not talking about face-to-face confrontation. I'm not talking about a shouting match. I'm not talking about backbiting or gossiping. I'm talking about managing, I'm talking about you managing yourself, your life, your thoughts, feelings, and your behavior, so that you have a more mentally healthy life and relations with people in your workplace. The sixth point here is ask for help, right? In the first slide, we have said that talk about your feelings. So that is another way of asking for help. If you feel stressed, if you feel challenged, if you feel that you cannot deal with it, don't just stay in bed and refuse to get up, etc., etc. We all know what we do when we are feeling stressed, we are feeling mad, angry, and when we face challenges in life. Always remember that none of us are superhuman. So we all get tired, overwhelmed about what we feel, about our thoughts, feelings, behaviors, the situations around us, and so on. And when things don't, so always be willing to ask for help. And so very difficult, especially all human beings are created in such a way that, oh, if someone says this something about you, negative about you, the immediate thought, your immediate thought that comes to mind is, oh, she is talking about me. What is she? Who is she to talk about me in that way? That's the first thought that comes to mind when you hear that someone is talking about you in this way, right? So that shows you and me how proud we are as an individual. Knowing that, going on from there, we know that that is the situation, that is what we are born with, that is the personality trait that every one of us have. So we need to scale that down depending on the situation, depending on your circumstance, and to tone it down, but not, I'm not saying that you kneel down and you bow down and you be the underling all the days of your life. I'm not talking about that. But there is always a balance, there is always an equilibrium where you can balance out, depending on the circumstance, depending on the situation. Ask for help. Take a break. Yeah. The phrase is there, break a leg, take a break, right? So we all know what this means, so I'm not going to elaborate on this. So there are many things that you enjoy doing in life, but you say, oh, I enjoy doing this, I love listening to music, but I don't have the time. To listen to music, you don't have to sit in a sofa, close your eyes and listen. If you have the time to do that, that's well and fine. You can listen to music while you're working, while you're doing your workout, when you are in the car and stuck in a traffic jam. So many ways and means of going about it are available. It's just that you need to consciously think about how you can enjoy music in your life. What I do in my room in the department is I always put on music while I'm working. And some of my colleagues say, oh, you're working and listening to music at the same time. Are you doing a sing-along, or does that not interfere with your work? No, and my mind is mentally set that it suits me, it makes me calm, and the words, the lyrics do not disturb my work. So that's my way of doing, listening to music while I'm working, and it makes me feel calm, serene, etc., etc. So I'm not taking a break, I'm still working, but listening to music at the same time. So there are ways and means you can do two things at the same time, multitasking, so to say. Okay. So these are some examples, some things that you can do, consciously try to do, so that you don't have to take a break. Oh, I don't have time for a break, so let me take half an hour today. Instead of taking that half an hour, which you can ill afford to spend on taking a break, you have to consciously decide that if you don't take that half an hour's break, your work will suffer. You have to realize you are not a super human being. You need to take breaks, you need to relax, you need to have fun time, you need to do something that you enjoy, etc., etc. Okay. And some people, some of us, including myself, sometimes feel that I need to do everything and no one can do better than I. That thought and feeling often comes to me. That's one of the challenges that I face in my life. So I'm sure that sometimes you feel that way too. Don't do so. Today's world is teamwork, delegation. One person, one individual cannot do everything by himself or herself. Empowerment, inclusiveness, teamwork, delegation is the name of the game today. If anything is going to work out well, fine, superbly, then if it's done in a team, then the credit goes to so many people. It involves, it gives empowerment to people around you, to the staff or to your colleagues. It also empowers you, and the credit goes to everyone, and the job is very well done. That's what I'm talking about, right? And the next bullet point is sleep. We already talked about this, so I'm going to skip this. The next, which is the 8th point, is do something you're good at. Yesterday, I had my first class on interdisciplinary minor. And this semester I'm taking a course on self and personal growth. So I had asked the students, they are from different departments of the university, some from chemistry, some from political science, some from social work, some from clinical psychology, some from mass communication, some from English department. So different, a mixed match of people from different students from different schools and departments. Anyway, so I had asked them to close their eyes for a minute and think of two strengths that they think they have and two challenges that they think they have in their lives. And I did not ask them to specifically stand up and share with the class what they had thought about. But even then, that is a good exercise of boosting your morale, building up your self-esteem. So all the participants after this class, when you have the time, you can close your eyes for a minute and think about the two strengths that you think you have and the two challenges that you think you have and you need to work on. Need to work on here would mean try to find the means of getting better or facing the challenge that you have identified. Enjoying yourself can beat stress. Doing an activity you enjoy probably means you're good at it, and achieving something boosts your self-esteem, right? We all know what self-esteem is, so I'm not going to define. But anyway, what do you love doing? What activities can you lose yourself in? What did you love doing in the past? Etc. etc. So these are questions that you can ask yourself. Be self-aware of what you love doing. If I ask you out of the blue, what do you love doing? Some people may immediately give an answer. Some people may take some time to think about it. And even after some time, cannot decide what they love doing. There may be 10 things that they love doing or just one thing. Or another individual may, I cannot for the life of me think about one thing that I enjoy. Anyway, individual differences are always there, but it's good if you are self-aware. Think about what you enjoy doing, what you love doing, and then do that. Take time, make time for doing that at your workplace, etc., etc. Okay. Then the next step that you can take is plan your workload to include tasks that you are good at. This is very, very important. Sometimes some people, some mentors give the advice, do the hard work or the work that you're not too good at first, and then do the easy ones later. But according to experts, it's that feel good factor is a very, very important factor in life, in work. So if you do something easy, something you're good at, that you know you're good at first, that will give you a feel good factor and make you feel good about yourself. And then you can tackle the difficult ones, the ones that you think or you feel that you cannot do very well. So that is one way of doing things in a very positive way. Then also another exercise or activity that you can do is you may have a hobby or you may not. And whatever, if you have one, then you can ask your colleague to do that with you or share, etc., etc. There are so many things, especially in today's very highly technological world. There are so many things that can be done. Play a puck game or a computer game or video game on the phone, etc., etc. So many things that can be done by you as well as with a group of people. Here I'm talking about sharing it or doing it with a group of people in your workplace or where you are at that point of time. Because we have heard of the very big challenge of internet addiction, video games addiction, etc., etc. So if you do it individually or even in a group, you may be very much aware that these are some challenges that may arise. So you can guard or you can try to avoid those situations where this may happen. Accept who you are. This is another very, very important, but so very difficult in life, as you and I are very much aware. Accepting myself for who I am. I gave you that earlier example when someone says, oh, this person is so and so, and the immediate response, the first thought that comes to mind, who is he, she talking? What is he, she also? That comes to mind immediately. So accepting ourselves for who we are is very, very difficult, but it's not undoable. It is very much doable. And if you're able to do this, if you're able to get through this challenge, let me tell you, it will make you a so much more happier, so much more mentally healthy person, accepting yourself. See what are your challenges, what are your strengths, work up, build up on your strengths, and try to find ways and means of dealing, addressing, facing the challenges that you have in life. That's what we are talking here. Accept who you are. Be proud of who you are, recognize and accept the things you may not be good at, but also focus on what you can do well. This is another very important exercise that all of you, us, can learn to do. If I'm so used to, or if I was born with a pessimistic mindset or way of thinking, everything that I do, even if I do well, I always look at the dark side or the negative aspect. If that is my personality, or if I'm so used to that mindset or that way of thinking, you can change it to a more positive perspective, or in a more positive way. And always remember that you were created by whichever God you believe in, as a perfect being, as a perfect individual. And it's up to you to build up or to make the most of what you are born with. You may not be a Miss Universe or a Mr. Universe. You may not have the figure or the physique for that. But I'm sure there are many strengths, many plus points, many positive things about you that you are aware of, but you have not taken the time. Because just because you are not a Miss Universe, or you do not have the figure or the physique, you think that you're not good looking or you do not have a good figure. But think about all the positive things with regards to, in this particular example, about you have good hair, you have good skin, or your waist is 24, 26, whatever. I'm sure that you understand what I'm trying to get at. So be proud of who you are, recognize and accept the things you may not be good at, or you feel you are not good, but also focus on what you can do well. If there's anything about yourself you would like to change, are your expectations realistic? If they are, work towards the change in small steps. Don't try to go in leaps and bounds, okay? You need to be realistic about your expectations. Just because the neighbor's son always is in the top 10, the other neighbor also wants her son to be in the top 10. Not thinking about that he and his wife, or she and her husband, were never in the top 10 themselves when they were in school. Just because the neighbor's son is able to do that, you push your son or your daughter. Expectations are too high. Not looking at the specifics, not looking at the whether your family for generations are good in studies or not, etc., etc. I'm sure you understand what I'm trying to get at. So those are things that we need to be very much aware. And lastly, I think this is second last, self-acceptance and self-care. Be proud of who you are, accept yourself for who you are, be proud of who you are, and you can work hard to meet the challenges that you see in yourself. And I'm telling you, it is doable, it is possible. If you consciously try to do so, if you consciously work your life, steer your life towards that. Okay. Then the 10th one, that's the last one, is care for others. I'm sure in a collectivist society like India, in the East, most of the Eastern world is collectivist. Me and other people, me and community, we care for our people around us. We care for our families, etc., etc. Not like the individualistic culture of the West. It's just a me kind of culture in the West. In the East, it's different. So I don't think I need to elaborate here. Caring for others, doing good for others. It's not just in your work, but also in your communities and so on, in any other situation or environment. So what does the law say about mental health, right? We have a wide range of legal rights that protect our mental health at work. Even the Indian government also does have has passed many amendments and many laws, and the legal rights of individuals are very much clear, okay? So if you're interested to go further into this, we could always Google them. right? So why don't people talk about mental health? Here, all of us, I have already elaborated earlier with examples that stigma and discrimination is very much evident. Be aware of this and address the challenge of stigma and discrimination, because that prevents people from accessing services, people going for help, looking for help, seeking help. Okay. So that is my presentation for the day. I hope that none of you are sleeping or not being very attentive. But anyway, I hope that it will help you to be a better person, to have a more mentally healthy life, workplace. Thank you very much.
So, Madam, thank you so much for your very worthyful and very informative lectures.